Ken, thank you for the shot.
Oh, you got it.
I went with the portable video setup because otherwise you'd have to speak into the mics on everything.
Okay.
So it's recording. So
Oh, okay.
now if we went to the chambers, then you'd have to use the mics because that's the only way the audio comes through. So
Okay.
it's easier for a group like this just to use
Okay, perfect, perfect.
that. Do you have a copy of the minutes?
Yeah.
Video's on whenever you're ready.
Alrighty, well, I was gonna wait a minute for Lisa,
Okay.
but why don't we go ahead and she'll catch up. Alrighty, it is June the 18th at 6:03 PM. This is the Bike Pedestrian Advisory Committee meeting, and we'll have a call to order and a roll call. Dorothy Hill,
Kenny Burke?
Neil Murray?
and we have
Murray.
Luke Murray as our staff liaison, and we have guests.
Joe Damon.
Brett Luck.
Chris Thack.
All righty, great. All righty, so it's nice to have our guests and potentially members at some point. Okay. All righty, approval of minutes. Has everybody had an opportunity? Members had an opportunity to read the minutes. Any comments?
Motion to approve?
Okay, a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All righty, that passes. We have our May minutes. Correspondence and public comment. I think Shane had a comment from somebody in the community that he spoke to.
Yeah, I had someone complaining about the orientation of the drainage grids on Main Street and Old Tower Hill Road, especially in the bike lane on Old Tower Hill Road, where they are oriented with bike tires, which causes a
Right.
High Street too.
High Street too, and you had pointed out a couple places. I think maybe on South Road.
South Road, I had seen some,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. So, you know, as far as what can we do?
Generally, if it's a perfect square, and if it's a 4-flange frame,
Yeah,
you can rotate them.
okay,
You being somebody DPW or DPS or state maintenance for state road like High Street.
okay, so,
If it's a 3-flange, like set up against a catch basin, a curb, you might have to have a different type of grate installed
okay. So it would be RIDOT, it would be their maintenance
for
office
state roads,
for state
state
roads.
roads.
so like High Street.
Okay, now, would we have to identify individual rates, or do we ask them to,
I
what do you
think if you give
suggest?
them explicit
Explicit.
instruction direction, that's something that they can action,
Okay.
take action on.
Okay, okay. And so how do you, how would you as an engineer, how would you identify, do the grates have any kind of identifying?
You can do, a certain distance from an intersection.
Okay,
I mean, there are plans, and engineers will use by station, but I don't think anybody is gonna remember that. The crews that would come out here, you just wanna know it's north or south of Allen's Avenue intersection, on the east or west side of the road. something
Okay.
like that.
yeah, and there are the different patterns. Again, when you get to an intersection, you will often see a grate that is almost like a waffle type pattern where it goes both ways and in the grid. So it could, realizing that traffic can come from 2 directions, so it counters it that way.
okay.
But also, on town roads, who maintains those? Would you know, Luke? Or is that outsourced? Just because some periodically you see them vacuuming out debris
Right.
and such. Is that outsourced?
Our highway department / DPS does it. We have an MS4 manager, Brian Costa, and he inventories and GPSs all of the manholes and catch basins in town. And under our agreement for the MS4, they have to keep them clean for water quality and et cetera, et cetera. So he manages a vendor on the back or out of all of those basins.
And the specs as to the orientation of the grates is given to those vendors? Or is it an expectation that the
I think,
vendor would know
honestly,
it?
they probably put the grates on, I can't remember, but I don't think there's a directional way to put those grates on. You're talking about the standard catch basin grates?
Yeah, like I said, if it's a free flange where it's up against the curb, typically they're in one direction, it's only
Yeah.
one way.
Right.
It's just out there on a flat road.
Yeah, if it's a flat road, you can orient it whatever you want, but you're right, like if it's a curb line one. So, you know, I would imagine, just based on my own experience doing this, is that they just flip them, or pull them, they flip
Pull
them,
them out and put it back.
and they put them back. So, not sure I'm clear on what you mean by orientation, because typically they're squares, like 2-inch squares.
No.
Usually,
They usually have an
We're
op.
talking about
Now, my tires won't get stuck, but somebody with a road bike, your tires could go in there and that would be a potential,
at least you'll lose your
Accident.
steering because you'll be stuck.
yeah, so, yeah, yeah,
So you mentioned an individual last name Costa?
Brian Costa, but if you're gonna write a correspondence, don't write it to Brian. That's not gonna go anywhere.
Okay.
You know, if you wanna put something to me, I can talk to Rich. Rich is in charge of DPS and alert his attention to it, so that when they do it, they can pay attention
okay.
to, if they can flip them, they can flip them. I'm sure they wouldn't have an issue with it. It's just, I think, bringing it to their attention that it's an issue would be
Okay.
enough, that we can certainly play our part.
Yeah. That would be great if we could get like a draft letter, and then for the town,
If
that
there's
would
any
be,
specific locations on town roads, that would be helpful. Like if you have a specific request, I mean, you can certainly put a general request in, but if there's specific locations that you have concern with, they can put it to engineering as well, and we can take a look at it.
okay.
And DOT for state roads.
Yes.
And then I think for that, we would probably need, you know, maybe one correspondence will collect the locations, you know, as we're riding around, walking around, and then maybe in a subsequent meeting, we can pull that together.
Can you provide photos of examples
Yeah.
as to the orientation as well?
Not at this moment, but I can.
No, when you have the opportunity to cite them, that way, and capturing the curve and such, so that we have the direction in which it's flowing and can cite those examples to the state, and they can provide input as to the specific design of the grate and how it should be oriented.
Great, all righty, so we'll be working on that, and we'll collect the locations. And meanwhile, we've been joined by Lisabeth Sanford,
Hi.
Secretary.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
It's only 5 minutes late.
That's right. No, I just wanted to know that you were here. Did anybody else have any communications out in public, or anything that you wanted to bring up?
I received feedback today from someone about on the bike path, about, I'll say, a supercharged electric bicycle on the bike path that they were riding on, and somebody had one of those fat tire ones going at high speed to see how long he could do a wheelie.
That's all the time.
It's all the time? Is it all the time on the bike path?
It's all the time on the bike path. And I saw that on Facebook, and I'm like, this happens a lot, and yes, something needs to be done. We need to have guardrails about this, because I have a 3-year-old grandson who kind of likes to play on the bike path since we live on it. I mean, that's our backyard, so yes, those things happen all the time.
The bike path, and the bike path is, in theory, restricted to certain levels of electric bike?
So that's what it was. There was discussion about that, and there was actually an article what was that article from?
Are they class ones it's restricted
So,
to?
it's actually,
Anything above class 3 is no longer a bicycle, legally in Rhode Island, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's anything that's going over 26, then it's no longer a bicycle. It should be busted.
So if somebody's going by 35 to 40,
That's
popping a
not
wheelie for
yeah.
seeing how long you can do it for.
Yeah. They're driving over that.
Yeah.
yeah. And the other thing is the bike police are out now. So they're out there all the time,
Mhm.
which is great because then the kids who are doing the wheelie for as long as they possibly can
Mhm.
see that the cops are there, and they won't take their motorbikes on it. They won't take their dirt bikes on it as much. They'll avoid that area. There's should be a lot of discussion about it.
I think, maybe also in the future, as one of our charges is education, and I think maybe, once we kind of get through some of these things that we're doing now, the escape plan and the bike path inventory, we can start, and as we get new members, maybe start taking on some of these other projects to do some kind of work on some kind of education for the community as far as what is and isn't, and work with the police department on that as well, and Parks and Rec
Yes.
manages the bike paths.
Yeah. I think all of those need to be, it's education, agreed 100%.
Yeah.
And working with all the interested parties. And when I was reading that Facebook, there wasn't anybody who was really angry. They were just stating their thoughts. Like, some laughed, like, it happens all the time. Some were like, well, that's not right. And the others were like, well, here's the law. And the law's it's not specific enough.
I thought the law was pretty clear, so maybe I'm wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's no motor vehicles on the bike path, and class 1 and 2 e-bikes are not considered motor vehicles legally.
That's right. Yeah.
Right? I don't think that, so we're all.
I thought it was class 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, I don't think
I thought 3 were not allowed on bike paths, but maybe I'm wrong.
you don't need a license to drive it, so I think that might be.
Right, but that's different than being allowed on, yeah.
From that article that was provided from the Facebook thing, and I haven't been
I
following.
read that, that was specific to East Bay bike paths.
Yeah, that's specific. And my question was, my thought was there was legislation that was approved by the House, but did not get approved by the Senate. So I wasn't certain. I'm not certain where the laws are. And Chris, you might be right. You're probably right. So yeah. I was unsure where the laws were at that point.
I think we can research and bring it back to the next meeting so that we have some groundwork to say, and maybe involve, if at the junctions on the bike path, there can be a posting as to the classifications and speeds that e-bikes are permitted on it.
Yeah, as we're working on the inventory, that's a great idea as far as where we can we don't want to inundate the bike path with signage, but certainly there can be something that we can ask to be posted. So, along those lines, I heard from somebody who a group that routinely rides the bike path, and they were wondering what they could do and how they could help with some of the maintenance, like the routes coming over the bike path, and how certain areas are really, really choppy. And I had just suggested that they attend one of the rec commission meetings and bring it up directly to those that do the maintenance of the bike path. So there used to be a Friends of the Bike Path group, and there isn't anymore. I think the person that was in charge of that was ill, and is no longer maintaining that. So that's not something that we're gonna jump on, but that could be a side thing for a volunteer that wants to take that on.
Just as a side note, if there's specific maintenance concerns, they can always call the department as it sits now, but in about 2 weeks, we're gonna be launching the 311 system.
Okay.
And if there's a specific complaint, along the bike path that is of concern, you'll be able to, any public person can go in, log it, put the location on a map,
Okay,
and based on that, we can issue a work order for it for a specific, tree branch or root or whatever it is. If it's a larger issue, obviously, we'd have to look at it on the long-term
Yeah.
capital plan. But maintenance items, that'll be a better outlet to do it instead of having to go to the rec commission on that. That'll be a much quicker avenue to get specific concerns taken care of.
But in terms of maintenance things, so if there's, 40-foot stretch of the bike path, where there's a bunch of roots on that stretch, and it really needs to be repaved, is that what you're talking about?
No, I mean, you can certainly issue it through the system. You can log it as a concern, but no, that is a larger concern.
that's what she was
That's
talking.
what most,
Yeah.
there's several sections on the bike trail where that has become a problem.
Yeah, and
where
they
it
can
says
still
very
log
shallow.
that concern. I just have to expectation set, obviously, we're not gonna run out and pave 40 feet of pathway, right?
Yeah.
So, but what we can do is at least get back to that person and say, we're aware of it. It's in our long-term capital plan, or thank you for, bringing this to our attention. We'll evaluate it, and maybe it does get put in our plan. Unfortunately, stuff like that takes time, but at least people can see that a complaint was logged, it was acknowledged, and that it's on our radar.
Yeah,
I think that's what most people want is to be heard. It's just unfortunately, we can't always obviously address every complaint immediately.
It's
Well, that-
documented.
that's.
What's that?
It's documented.
It's documented, yes. And, it's a better avenue because the rec commission's probably they're gonna look at Terry. Terry's gonna go to now Jeff and say, what can we do? And then if it's something he can't take care of, it's gonna go on the capital plan. So it'll be a shorter way of just getting it on our radar.
Some of this has been done before. There are stretches that got repaved from, root damage. Do we know how that was done?
I don't.
No, I can check and see what has been done. To be honest, I'm a little unclear on what the state's responsibility is versus the town on that.
Yes, that was
So,
kind
I mean,
of
we're in
the-
charge of maintenance, but there's always a question of maintenance extends to capital construction on it, so. I think the path's getting to that point now where the question's gonna come up more and more because more and more sections need to be repaved, so.
And-
I'll put it on my list to check into, because I'm interested too.
Yeah, and some of the members of this group that ride are from Richmond, Charlestown, Narragansett, and, those communities, as far as I know, don't contribute to the maintenance of the path. They use it frequently. So it'd be nice for the state to step in and.
And I do want to emphasize that, I see this as a pretty important safety issue. I watched someone trip right at the end of Cemetery Lane on the roots there and face plant.
Yeah,
Running, I have to slow way down. I go off the path now.
yeah.
It can knock you off your bike. So that's not something that I think should go in, like a 5-year plan.
Yeah.
I mean, we are aware, I walk it
Yeah.
every day, Jim walks
Yeah.
every day, part of the reason the Riverwalk got done is because I was sick of tripping on it. I said, we have to get this done.
All right, we need you out on that bike path
Yeah,
more.
we're up in
That was a little easier, but, that stretch was $20,000 just
Yeah.
for your perspective, right? So, it's expensive. These things take some resources.
Yep. Okay. Anybody else have any public comment? All right, staff report, town activities. What's up?
Well, I'll ask first, is there anything you specifically want to know about before I?
Well, I'm always interested in 138. And I think Safe Streets for All, how that's, we've heard anything, probably wouldn't have heard anything by now, but
Yeah, I can go with that first. So 138, I have not heard anything. We did have a meeting. Ken was in the same meeting with URI and all the players at the table. One thing we did ask is moving forward that URI and the town be involved in all of the meetings moving forward for collaboration. I have not heard back on our requests. A lot of them, the general tone of the meeting was collaborative. Both URI and the town had requests with regard to pedestrian, specifically to walkways, the intersection of Upper College Road. URI had some specific requests as far as Keeney. In general, the plan's kind of a hybrid. We didn't get everything we wanted, but they are planning to do the sidewalk on the north side of 138. That's embedded in the plan, and I expect that to move forward. They're rebuilding all the culvert crossings, I believe that Ken remind me there's 4, right? And the bridge, we did make a request to widen the sidewalk on the bridge. They looked us with cross-eyed on that one. They, you know, in fairness, the town originally put forth a request for a 5-foot on both sides. They do have enough, in my opinion, lane widths to put either sharrows or bike markings to at least give us that. And so that'll be a continued request. And I've also requested bike markings all the way from Route 2 up, because there are enough breakdown area in the, there is enough area in the breakdown lane, I believe, to make that essentially a bike lane. With a very little effort on their part. So we're continuing the fight there. We're also cognizant that this project has been on the table for a very long time, and part of that is because there was some strife early on differences of opinion on design. There was rotaries originally involved, there was a lot more requests on pedestrian. Ultimately, the DOT's position is, listen, we're in charge of repaving a roadway, and they could take the position that they have every right to just repave that roadway in place. So they've been accommodating, I think, within budget to our request to put in more walkways, wider, breakdown lanes, I'll call them, better intersections. We did ask for RFBs in lieu of the hawk lights, which Bob Rocchio seemed to be supportive of. So that's a good sign. They did ask to keep, even if we move the intersection, to keep the Graduate Village crossing, I think.
Yeah, I think still is an RRFB.
FB, yeah. So the historic district, I'm a little fuzzy on. They didn't really get into that. I think their approach to that is it's mostly roadway work. There's little I saw on the plans as far as, it's patch and repair, some sidewalks, and that was it. I don't think they want to get into anything larger. As far as North Road, Old North Road is concerned, there was a request by URI to really take a heavy look at that and maybe do some reconfiguration. We all came to an agreement that while it's important, it would slow down the project and potentially stall the project. And so DOT's ask was, table it for now, we'll come back in a collaborative manner and assess to see if something can be done, because a larger discussion has to happen about, two-way versus one-way traffic again, and whether, URI owns property over there, whether there's some adjustments that could be made to that intersection to improve traffic flow in general for both pedestrians and vehicular. So I think that's going to be a couple of years out before we get into that conversation. So as far as I know, they're at 30% stage and climbing. So I would expect they'll be at 50%, 60% soon. And it's a design build project. So the one thing is they're not super flexible.
I'll see you a little.
All right, take it easy.
I'll say hello to everyone.
They're not super flexible because they have a design build contract, they have a budget built in, and they're not looking to make major changes. There's a lot of wetland permitting and water quality permitting and stuff that goes along with that. Anything I missed?
Great.
I just have a curiosity question. What's more expensive, the hawk lighting or the RFBs?
Well, the hawk light exists, right? So, but the issue that we're finding with the hawk is it just isn't very effective. So it is a cost for them to take it down and essentially trash it to put in alternative. They could keep it there and just work with what they have. So, yeah.
The signage is very confusing as to how it's used too. The one that's western at the URI bike path, one where you see that says stop for red but go for blinking red. It is a confusing message.
Yeah.
And the next one at the Graduate Village does not have the same messaging.
Agree.
We asked, university asked that the DOT keep the same signs consistent. It was a different group that did the Graduate Village signal. But I think to Luke's point, now that the signals have been in for several years, they've acknowledged, they being the DOT traffic engineers, have acknowledged that it's not as impactful and helpful as they wanted it to be. There's another one in, I think, Blackstone Boulevard on the east side of Providence. They hoped would be a good model, and we explained to them this is a rural setting. It just is non-compliant on pedestrians, bicycles, and vehicles. So it's failed.
Yeah, especially with the blind view at the URI bike path extension, to have one that says, all right, but go when it's flashing red, where a pedestrian coming across sees flashing red and may figure they've got the safe crossing. But, so they may go for the RRF?
It sounded
Okay, good.
very positive that
Good.
they were open to that, and we're gonna make, so we'll keep our foot on the gas on that one. Safe Streets Fall, I have not heard anything. Application is in. I would expect that we're not gonna hear anything until probably November or December on that one. So for right now, we sit and wait. We are in touch with our legislative delegation. The good news is that the entire legislative delegation, meaning, you know, I would say this, Senator Whitehouse, Reed, and Representative Magaziner have taken up the earmark in some way, shape, or form to move Main Street forward. So if we do not get the Safe Streets for All, I expect they're going to be pushing the earmark grant forward for consideration under the budget. So there's that. So the hope is in some way we're going to get some funds for Main Street. Just as a side note, I attended a Main Streets planning session through Grow Smart Rhode Island a couple weeks ago. Yeah, you were there. And it was good to see Dorothy there. It is something that I think BPAC should remain involved in, because it just, even though it's very focused on Main Street and the villages in general, possibly Peacedale, I do think there's a good linkage there, especially through that district, and it's good to stay in the loop on the Main Street items, since that's our highest traveled corridor. So, high school's going well. Keep your eye on it. Brick's going to start going up in a couple weeks. Interior's already starting to get some hallways built out, so just be on the lookout. It's going up quick. I'm working with the team here to start looking at Columbia and School Street, and we had a discussion on that. Veolia is going to be doing some repaving and how that interface goes. Under contract, a sidewalk is supposed to be redone the entirety of the school site, and I believe I mentioned that. But we're looking for what else the town can do over the next couple of years as they start to demo the school and pull out what's our responsibilities to kind of deal with the periphery there and the connections. So that's on our radar. We're working on it, albeit slow. The wheels are turning.
Please let us know what we can do if you need anything from BPAC on the sidewalk there for School Street. That's really important, I think. And also, although Church Street has a sidewalk at least on one side of the road, all the way. I'm pretty sure on the right-hand side, the north side, all the way. But I've been biking that and coming from the bike path and then coming on Church Street and crossing over and using the signal, which is really nice, and then going up through Old Mountain Field Road, I guess that is, and then there's a path that goes over to like the dog park and everything. Coming back, if you're biking or walking, you really don't want to cross. Well, if you're walking, you're on the sidewalk, but if you're biking, you really don't want to cross. There's no easy way to cross when you come down Old Mountain Field Road. So I've been coming through, and I'm just wondering, is there on that new, the new plan for Old Mountain Field, is there a path that comes through that will join up and go across and use that crosswalk right there? There's a little gate there.
So you're saying a path internal to the park that would dump out
Where the light, yeah.
I'd have to go back to the master plan. I believe there is, because that whole side becomes a little bit reconfigured long-term, but I don't know. I'd have to go back. I can't remember off the top of my head.
I just want to know how we can,
I believe the master plan is online on the
Okay.
website if you want to take a look. but
Okay.
I'll ask Terry.
okay. And maybe I'll just check in with her as well, because I think that's one of the things that we've talked about is the connectivity, and to use that path that goes from the rec center and comes all the way down through and then connects to Old Mountain Field, it would be really nice if you could, if there was just a complete, you know, bike path that just keeps going right across the park there. And I didn't see it on a plan that came out right there. I see paths that go around Mountain Field.
I'll take a look. I mean, I know there's hiking trails back there as well, but that's not what you're talking about. You're talking about the paved trails.
But I'm saying that,
The YMCA and
right,
go through to the park, which then, you know, the nice thing is that connects you up to South County Commons.
exactly.
So, yeah.
It's not hard to come across 108 with the signal there, go on Church Street, and then get right on the bike path. And that's the connector that I think is really important to be able to promote in the future, to link the Commons with Wakefield. So,
Well, I mean, it certainly, I'll just bring up, like, you've mentioned this, you know, part of your mission is education and sort of, you know, glad to, you know, once Escape and other things are out, but if part of it is creating a map
yep,
of connections in town and maybe a signage system that kind of like denotes those connections, those periphery connections, you know, that's something that could be a project.
Yeah.
That is part of a general mission of education and kind of.
and that's something that Lisa Beth has been really passionate about, is the wayfinding. So
Yeah.
I want us to be able to
As far as the master plan goes, it's available and
Okay.
take a look. I mean, it is a long-term master plan. I think the bill on the total plan was over $10 million. We're about $4 million in on the current improvements, so.
okay.
If you can find another $6 million, that'd be helpful. To note, last thing I'll say on the staff updates is, and this just came up, I was talking to Jess in the office because she biked in the other day, is a lot of our own employees bring the bikes inside the building.
Okay.
Because the e-bikes are very expensive now. If you happen to come across any grants for bike lockers or things like that, I know you had brought them up for the school. But if there's other town facilities we can put them in and offset costs, if you happen across them, I'd be glad to work with you on applications for that. I don't know how available that is. I'm not as experienced in that, but who knows? Money drops from the sky sometimes from different initiatives. So if you come across anything, I'm glad to work on it.
I know that Ella Ackerman, when she was talking about for the RIPTA, for the hub, part of their plan is some kind of storage for bikes, for e-bikes. I think I remember that was something that they were looking at, because
So
that
maybe
would,
if that's something you could reach out there and see what their plans were and what they were looking at, you know, I'm not as
like,
familiar.
where would you think, you know, you've got people bring it in, because this is the place of work, you're talking about the high
Well, even people
school.
visiting, right? You know,
Yeah.
People wanna, you know, this is a public facility.
Yeah.
So recreation center, it's a public facility,
Yeah.
you know. I would imagine with very expensive bikes, locking them up in the old school way with a padlock is not as desirable as it used to be.
No. Yeah.
So when a bike's $2,000-3,000 or more, so, you know, it's a thought. Things are evolving, so.
Do you know, is there any fire code issues with storing e-bikes inside though? 'Cause I know they have
There
some
is.
issues. Yeah.
Yeah, I would imagine so, but I don't.
Yeah, the lithium batteries make them kind of explosive and fire hazard. So we've had that issue with the high-powered scooters on campus, as well as the e-bikes, mostly the scooters. So
Are you guys using lockers at all or anything along those lines?
we
or-
have them store the e-bikes and scooters outside. At least that's what we tell folks. They end up making them, you know, their way into buildings, and then we have to ask that they give them.
Yeah.
And I think for some of the newer student housing we're doing, they're making accommodations for exterior bike lockers, or just e-bike or battery powered.
So I guess my ask is, you know, I'm asking a group, if you're interested and you want to do some research and help me out with that, it's not something I have time in my day to just go off and do research on bike lockers and how e-bikes are stored, but if, you know, if the group, you know, and I'll put it to the chair if that's something that
I think-
you guys want
Yeah, I think that anybody that wants to spend some time looking at that and bring it back, to me, and then I'll talk to Luke
Your question directly in Old Mountain
about it. Okay, let's see what we got here.
It's not great where it connects up to the parking lot. It looks like more of a walking path.
Yeah. Oh, okay. All righty. Well, that looks good.
When you get to the parking lot, it doesn't connect. There's like a grassy strip, and then you gotta
Yeah.
yeah.
So
It
you
could
come
be
down.
improved.
Yeah. But you could put a sign, I mean, that's not there's a handful of homes on that road, but thank you.
And there is that connection at the gate to the other crosswalk
Yeah.
that's further south. I think that's going to be a one-way for cars, and I could imagine bikes wanting to go the other way on that road, so maybe there's some accommodations that
Yeah.
can be made. So that's possible.
Yeah. Great, that's good.
And Luke, I'll bring up a retro issue. It was in November, I drafted the concept regarding community outreach when doing paving and work to get bike and pedestrian recommendations. What
Yeah.
will it take to move that forward, or has there been, I know there've been a lot of activities through the winter with snow and such and all that. Is there a hindrance? Do we go to town council with a recommendation for it, or can we get the input from the town staff?
Listen, I would never say you can't go to town council. You can. I would say my biggest hindrance is not lack of want, it's time. You know, Rich is stretched extremely thin. There's a lot of projects that I'm involved in, and I'm extremely stretched thin. And that's not an excuse, it's just a reality. So it's a slow burn for me on that. Honestly, the bigger priority is creating this subgroup to consider individual and group requests, because I believe we have another request coming to council. I believe the correspondence got on for another speed issue. So more and more we're getting the speeding on my road, I think it's dangerous, I want a speed feedback, I want speed humps, and creating a system internally where we can take in that, like the council can just refer to the group, and then we can actually spark some action based on that. So that's been my first priority, is setting up that system. I did have a meeting with the chief and Rich a couple months ago on this, and we spitballed and we came up with a framework concept. Just had not had time to really dig into it. I've been a little dispersed.
It was more of an input into the concept document. That's all we were looking for at this time, to get
For the CIP?
to get some feedback for the for the CIP as to how there can be community outreach or avenues, or what they think is viable. That was the goal.
Yeah, that was what we were talking about, was how do we, when there is a project, we know it's maybe 2 or 3 years down the road, but we want to have public input early in the process before Rich puts it out to bid, in case there's something like a request for, a speed hump, or a crosswalk, or a bike lane,
Or
or,
even some insight as to what's going on in that neighborhood and what's important to them.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, well, I remember we talked about all that, and that was a concept that, and I remember. I guess what I'm explaining is so the short answer is, no, I have not had time to review it. I'm aware it's out there. It's something I'm in support of. I have talked to Rich about. He's lukewarm supportive of, for obvious reasons. The biggest one being, he always looked at thing as, I have money for a paving program.
Right.
I've explained to him that the intent is not necessarily to just incorporate everything. It's to put things on the radar for things that we could fund if the council so chose. And so we have laid the groundwork in this CIP where we didn't have kind of enhancements separated out in CIP. It was always a pavement
Right.
program. So while it
but
wasn't,
now we have the money.
well, no, I'm talking about something different. That money was really more for the engineering studies and then small improvements. I'm talking about like an enhancements fund that, like, I had mentioned this, that for the first time, like Kersey Road, the sidewalk is in the CIP as an enhancement, because it doesn't exist now, right? It's not a repaving. Traditionally, we've always just done repaving. If it exists, we repave it or replace it, and that's it. So although it seems like a relatively small improvement in the CIP, it is rather large to even just get that carved out, to get everyone in the mental thinking of, okay, that's great to repave and whatnot, but what if there's an enhancement that we want to put in? And the reason that's important is, I will just say, our staff has not been trained to think in those terms, because the municipality runs so lean And Steve Alfred had really ran, and to much of his credit, a very financial, lean organization. It was, we're not taking on things we can't afford. We're not even gonna look at it. So we're gonna, you know, let's worry about repaving, because we gotta get rid of the potholes. Getting people into the mentality of, all right, we're willing to look at other and consider it and have it ready. I'm of the mentality of, you always have to bake up projects and be ready, because you never know when the money's gonna come from. So everyone assumes the money's coming from the town. Nobody understood that COVID was gonna come, right? And money was gonna fall from the sky from ARPA. Those municipalities who had projects teed up were the beneficiaries of that. Those who were behind lost out. So I want this community to be the one that gets that money. So the key right now is to tee up those projects. So example is Kersey Road. The sidewalk is designed. It's ready to go. We did include it in the Safe Streets for All plan because it is baked up. We were able to put it in under that grant, and the hope is we get that money. So all that to say, I will look at it again. If you want to just resend it to me,
Sure.
I'll take a look through it, and I'll try to schedule some time with Rich to go through and get his ideas on it and see if we can at least get you some feedback to keep the ball rolling on it.
Okay,
Fair enough?
got it.
Okay,
Good to go?
good to go. Anything
Alright.
else?
No.
All right, I think
unless-
we're gonna, okay,
Get the-
so we need to move.
You have a minute?
Yeah, I was just looking at it.
All right, so we're gonna, now is the time to talk about the escape plan and how we are going to make recommendations to the town council. I kind of took a look at what, pulled together our discussion from the last, our last meeting that was cut short. And I think we kind of came up with some ideas on how to approach it. And we know that it's not our responsibility to create the route for connectivity between north of Route 1, south of Route 1. But we know that we are in a position to make recommendations because we're out there on the road, and we travel around, and we know what you know, some of the obstacles are. So we do have maps, and I think that, you know, one of the things we can do is to just kind of figure out what are maybe some of the different routes that we can suggest, and what are the things that, you know, an engineering study would have to look at in order for those things to happen. I did bring up at our last meeting, and I think everybody, except at least that, saw that the state bike mobility plan does have an option, or does have a plan. There would be a greenway, bike greenway, along Route 1, either on the north or the south side of Route 1. And obviously that would be the best if we could get the state to roll on that. But we know that that could be a really, really long range plan or deal. So I think that first step is to get our, is to make recommendations to the town council and advise them on how they might want to proceed on this. So where do you think we should start? Should we start with just considering some different routes? I mean, I think we looked at some things. I think we talked about some things, but suggestions on how we should start. And I kind of picked up a few things here, and I see if I can, you know, I just came up with some ideas. Hopefully you guys will just throw some things out as well. But you know, maybe I'll just kind of go through this, and then we can decide how we want to proceed. But some of the work has already, I mean, the idea of having this connectivity between north and south, it's not a new idea. It's in many plans that the town has paid for. The village studies, Ken was involved in the Healthy Places by Design. I believe it's in there. There's, I haven't been able to find it, but in our master plan, there's mention of the South Kingstown Greenways master plan, which talks about connecting all of the town's parks. And obviously there's parks north and south of Route 1. So, and then there are village studies for Matunic, Wakefield, and Peacedale. The town has a comprehensive plan. We have our bike mobility plan. The state has its bike mobility plan, and then complete streets. And so I think there's certainly enough to show the town that this is something that has been discussed over many different town councils. And maybe this is the time to take some action. So I would like help in writing the recommendation for the town council. So what we can do is come up with a, just kind of a basic document, and then folks can add their perspective, their ideas to it.
Would all of these existing plans have been built in conjunction with consultant studies already? So that it's not a case of presenting and suggesting a new study, a new plan, rather than considering how to promote moving forward with an existing plan. I'm just curious as to if we can look at these and see, they already had the engineering, it already had all the necessary study work done.
We don't.
They just general recommendations.
They're general.
Yeah.
Even the state mobility plan.
Yeah, the state mobility plan also kind of failed in terms of
Quality.
they identified the Minister Road as like, this is the way to get south, right? So
Yeah.
anybody that's been on that, and unless you're a highly experienced rider, there's no shoulder, it's tough. It was a good screening mechanism to look at on a map.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta get out there and look at it. So to your point, I think what's interesting is that it's where the population density is. Where are people and where do they want to go? I don't think anybody wants to, aside of like the really hardcore road bikers, nobody really wants to ride up and down Route 1. And then there are the hardcore, bike riders, the time trial folks. But for the general population, I think it's just trying to get from one side of Route 1 to the other.
Mm-hmm.
You can start looking at, well, what are the safer ways to get across Route 1? For example, Tower Hill Road, you've got the Wakefield cutoff. You can safely get over Route 1 into Mount Senior Clark and make your way down and get into Narragansett. It's a safe, grade separated crossing. And then there's like, you're taking your life in your hands with just about every other crossing on Route 1. Mm-hmm. And then you can look at every single ramp that comes in and out of Route 1 and say, well, that's how people in a car are getting across, and if you're on a bike, they're inhospitable. And like the ones around Wakefield, that's where the population is.
Yeah.
And the same thing, you can do the same type of exercise in the south side of Route 1. Well, where are people living? Where are they trying to get to town?
Didn't it also, the state mobility plan, have a recommendation for a traffic light at the end of, I would say, Main Street crossing Route 1?
They did.
Well,
And that's similar to the one we were talking about in Charlestown, the back end to Burlingame. Even though it's on a curve, DOT saw fit to say, people need to get in and out of there. So it's safe.
so the goal, I guess, Dorothy, is to say that there's been many plans, all recognizing an issue, and present a summary of what those plans are to the town council for a take forward.
Well, yeah, but those, all of those plans just basically say, we need to have this crossing. There isn't any, we're gonna be asking for, recommending that the town, take that next step and try to figure out what is a route, and then what are the things that we need? Do we need, we need an engineering study that says, well, this can be done, and this is gonna be the most cost-effective, or this is gonna be the best way, or we can't, this is the best way to cross over Route 1. And I don't know what that is. I don't know if the best way is where that light, potentially where that light is, and this is where they, there's, if you can look up on here, the little green square there, that indicates a new signal that the state has,
Well,
there's
so-
no money
so
with it.
I think the way the traffic engineers would do this, if they're not thinking too deeply, they're just looking at a warrant analysis is what they call it. They count how many cars, how many pedestrians are making these movements, and if it's dangerous, and can they count the accidents. We clearly don't have that because it's too prohibitive. So this is almost more of a planning study. This is more of like, you gotta make the compelling argument that, yeah, we get it, there aren't a ton of pedestrian and bicycle accidents because it's too dangerous.
Right.
But that doesn't mean the community doesn't have the need.
Or the
So-
want, the desire.
Yeah, exactly, right. And if it, there, you build it, and so if you built it, then people most certainly would, cross Route 1 safely and enjoy the fullness of their town if you're on the north side of the south side.
One of my favorite quotes, you've heard this one, you don't build a bridge based on how many people swim across the river.
Yeah. So Dorothy, I look at this and I think some of the easier ones are like this location. You can clearly say there's a population density in the Wakefield-Peaceville area, and gee, wouldn't it be great to get across Route 1? Unfortunately, as you get on the south side right there, you're on a short stretch of road before you dump back
Yeah,
on the
before.
wrong side of Route 1.
Yeah.
Depending on where you're going.
Well, I think they just put this dotted line here. I think it could go either side, but,
Yeah.
Then some of the issue is also, well, how safe is, we feel comfortable riding on Main Street and old, this Post Road but is the idea that it would be something that families could do? Was that part of the escape plan, that it would be something that would be kind of hybrid on and off road? Could you make a pathway along, Main Street, or coming up behind?
Yeah, what we can, what's feasible.
Yeah, the long pole intent is putting a traffic signal on. That's expensive. It's gonna take, it's gonna take time and money, to do this, and it's almost uniquely a Rhode Island DOT authorized program. The town would have to step in and say, we want it here. And then striping, putting sharrows, doing a reduced speed zone on, Main Street, for example, on the north side, is a light lift. There might be some public opposition to that. People like to zip out of town on the way to Route 1. They'd have to change their plans. But getting that signal approved, that goes to the full state traffic commission. They have to weigh the pros and cons, and they being the state traffic commission would need to approve it before DOT would take an action.
But they'd want to know, why do we want the light there? We want the light there because we envision a bike path or a bike route, a safe bike route. but if we don't, I mean, like, which comes first?
So one of my questions is, how did Charlestown get all of their stoplights there? You know, what?
I think it's interesting to that point. We're almost a victim of having too much right-of-way, too much width. We've got these beautiful wide medians. Right? So we still have those old school jug handles, right? Whereas Charlestown has a narrow median, and Wesley in some areas. So I think what was happening is people were just kind of pulling in and then dashing across, you know, or doing the U-turn. And there were accidents, or documented accidents.
Okay, so they did it by the accident report versus
Right, and we have,
desirable need or desirable.
we either don't have a crossing, or we have the, you know, the much wider U-turns, you know, or jug handles, which are protected. And the presumption is that a bicyclist would have to follow the path of a vehicle and just ride with traffic on Route 1, and then, yeah, it's
I do it.
yeah, you can do it.
Yeah, I don't like it.
E-bikes might be okay.
Right. So because we have more width, you know, that actually works against us, because there's still accidents, but it's not as severe. And I'm saying this speculatively. I haven't looked at the traffic data or the accident data in a long time, but I remember some of the horrific crashes in Charlestown Route 1.
Mm-hmm.
People just, you know, trying to dash across.
So this would be, the idea here is to have something, and have the town council start to consider something that would be consistent with what Luke mentioned, so that you are a bit ahead of the curve when an opportunity for funding arises. At the state level for the highways or in town.
Can I share my screen quick?
Yeah. How do I do that? Do I stop sharing?
You might have to stop sharing.
Oh,
Other point I want to bring up with the crossing Route 1, it's just indicative of like the little things that, you know, make life more difficult for bikes and pedestrians. Is I used to cross Route 1 just on the median,
yeah.
you know, and now they put that fence up in the middle, which makes that so much harder to do. So the fence, you know, it's making it safer for cars maybe so they don't cross it, but it's making it dangerous for, you know, people that cross it.
So this isn't for full public consumption, but when we went in for a recreation grant recently, unfortunately we didn't get it, for whatever reason. Terry asked me to do a quick schematic design, and so I kind of came up, we were looking at the hospital and how we may have a mutual goal of parking for the park and not wasting so much space between the two properties. And so that was part of this, is kind of looking at, okay, creating some synergy with the hospital. But what I really want to bring your attention to is this area in their public services is high. And so, you know, the thought was to put something that would grab your attention. There was a lot of discussion, if you remember, about the hospital potentially buying the property or taking it, and the fact that there's a lot of Native American history, and there was pushback on that. And the thought was to put some sort of recognition of that on the hill, have a plaza, but in my design I incorporated a flyover. Now, it's sort of just a, hey, what if? Like if you came off at that high point and then came over. This is not uncommon for those who have been to like Florida and other places outside of New England, where they do this a lot, especially near Disney and Universal and others. Like they put these over the roadways everywhere because there's 10-lane highways and you can't cross those. Like there's just no way across. So but my point is, this is one thought. We've also had a thought of, could we go under the bridge? And we've talked about that. Mike Stack has this thought of, what if we suspended a bridge, or we anchor one to the side and we go under the bridge? The question is, where do you go from there? You could cross at a light, right? Obviously, a light's probably cheaper than doing a bridge. So I think my 2 cents. The first is really putting an effort to DOT about, we need a crossing. Like, I think there hasn't really been a concerted effort to push DOT and say, this is a priority for the town and for the community to finally get this done. The second thing is, okay, what does that look like? And, you know, maybe not leaving it entirely to DOT to come up with that solution and saying, all right, so how do you get there? You know, and the question to the community is, what do you want to evaluate? Like, if you went to an engineer and said, okay, we want to cross, what does that mean? Does that mean you want a light with a button to cross Route 1? Do you want to not have to stop traffic and go over? Like, what is the intent? Where do you want to cross, and how do you want to cross? I think if you can narrow that focus and then have a kind of a scoping, you know, that may be something that the town can pick up the ball and not wait for DOT. Because quite frankly, you're going to ask DOT and DOT is going to, yeah, that's great. If the town picked up the ball and did some of the engineering work and maybe moved the ball forward a little bit, we might be in a better position to then take that and leverage them and say, this is what we want. Right? We've already done some groundwork on this, but now you need to take the ball, you know. Or maybe the town needs to take the bull by the horns and do what we're doing now, which is go for the earmark grant or go for some federal grant that says, okay, fine, we're going to go get the funding and we'll work with DOT to get it done, since we don't have a lot of action from the state. My 2 cents in just working with the state, and Ken maybe can back me up on this. I don't see DOT putting this at the top of their priority list. So, you know, the town as a whole, you as a group, need to somehow get them to move it up the priority list.
So basically, are you suggesting, instead of thinking of a full route, just places where we can get the crossings?
I'm suggesting have the talk about what this looks like. Like, what do you want? Like, we talk about crossings, you know, the state said one thing, I'm showing another, Mike has a different idea. Like, you as a group who bike, what is it, where is it, and what does it look like to you of a best scenario, or at least maybe a couple scenarios that you think are best work? And then asking the council, hey, we'd like to explore these possibilities. We think these are the best 3 that would work. And we don't know what they're going to cost. But, you know, here's maybe a low-cost option, here's a middle, and here's a high, and maybe the high is the best option. Can we explore this as a town? Or, you know, and if the town council won't take it up as a town, maybe they can at least put some leverage behind it and say, hey, DOT, we at least want you to study this. Like, look at it and see if there's something here.
And does the town council do that? Do they go to the state and say, we want this, or does it come from?
No, it would be a directive to staff, but it would also come with a resolution that they could sign off on, saying, you know, to the director, Bob Rocchio, saying, you know, we want you to look at this as a town. I mean, that I believe that matters. You know, it's a big difference between no offense to the group here, coming from a local group of BPAC or a nonprofit versus a town council standing up and saying, hey, this is a priority for our community, and we back it. I think that's much higher to move up the food chain of the, you know, thousands of requests they get.
No, ours is as an advisory committee to the town council, so we would expect the request to come through there, I guess.
Yes.
And as you said, have specific designs. Again, the state administerial, we're talking about where you have a population mass that is going to use it to a greater degree, rather than an easy crossing, but not useful. So, all right, so we can put some points together.
And those are just my thoughts. That's just some guidance. So don't
Yeah.
get to
By the way, your Skywalk Bridge you talked about down in Florida, there's a nice one on Route 6 in Cape Cod.
yeah, that's true.
They put the bike path there. They used to go up and over roads and on municipal roads and then back down. They built an archway bridge over the highway there.
There's one in Providence going into Johnston too.
Yeah.
It's not something that's not done, I guess is my point. It's pretty common, and I would gain it, I guess, not as costly. I mean, if you want to build the River Point Bridge, yeah.
No, and you, I thought, had shown past the Marina Park, where they're talking about where the town is going to be taking over those slips, and whether there was some connectivity which would go across the river from the Marina Park.
Yeah, let me pull that up.
Oops.
Because what you have
Oh,
here
if
as
you want to pull it up.
No, you go ahead. I don't know that I haven't shared yet. I'm just preparing to share.
So I think maybe your recommendation should be specific, like specific enough And maybe I would say, so hire engineer consultant, look at like where you cross Route 1 and how, and do like a cost benefit. Does that
Yeah,
sound like
but I think that,
Get connected in some-
cancel.
instead of us being like, look at this specific thing?
Connect. But I think that at some point we need, before we know where we want to cross, we need to know what the route, do we need to know what the route is potentially going to be?
Vaguely, like Wakefield to Matunic or something like that.
I think
Yeah.
the crossing needs to be more of an issue than the actual path itself.
Yeah, that's the hard part.
I think to your point, so like on the north side, it's kind of Wakefield, Peaceville, on the south side is Matunic. So they're askew a little bit, and there's options, many options built into that.
Okay. The village connectivity, that's what
Yeah,
we were talking about.
So this is what, the town next year, the marina exercised a 1-year option to extend their lease. So next year, the town will be taking over these slips. And we're either gonna have to build docks, well, we're probably gonna have to build docks, we're probably gonna take the docks out. So what Mike was talking about is either doing some type of suspension or build something off the revetment of the bridge underneath to support a pathway. The issue, and this is why I provide caution, and some from an engineering standpoint, one, it's costly, but two, there's a lot of wetland issues here, right? You're building along the waterway. And three, where do you go from there? And that's a big question mark. Like, you have to follow the embankment either this way or this way, which is private property. This way is the DPS property, and it still takes you up to town farm. You kind of get, if you can work with the hospital, maybe you can traverse through there. So, it's the same challenge even if you come through town farm. The town farm option is, in my view, a little bit more palatable only because you don't have to deal with the wetland issue. But that doesn't mean you can't do this. So I think what Mike is looking at with the waterfront, when they start looking at the sort of plan for Marina Park in general, was, could this be an option? Right? Because it's is it the only underpass that we have under Route 1? I think it is.
Pond Street.
Oh, no, Pond Street, yeah. And Pond Street's difficult as well. Like, that's also probably on paper, if you're looking at it like the state, and you just look at it, you're like, oh, that's great, but try to get down Pond Street. It's not what I'd call a bike lane. So you're absolutely right, is that there's a tough thing about the crossing, but there's also an equal portion of where do you go once you get across.
And that's why we were judging with the maps here as to where you can go and where there are existing roads, whether they're town or private, but with existing roads that will get you to Matunic or to the village.
Because the one thing we were looking at Pond Street was there's that public land, I don't know if it's public land or if it's town land, that takes you straight from Pond Street to that neighborhood first. We can already get that first neighborhood on the south side.
Squirting the Cove.
Oh, yeah.
On the GIS, it was like, I don't remember what the term was, that kind of land. It goes straight from Pond Street all the way. I think it's the utility easement.
Yeah.
Okay, oh,
Yeah, you can kind of see
There's a
it.
larger area
Is
though.
that the one you're talking about?
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's on the GIS. It's a larger area than just the easement. And it goes right on to Spartina Way. It's on the GIS.
Yeah, you can pull up.
But still, ultimately, you gotta connect to the one section on 1A. So you're gonna have to use that crosswise.
I think a big question is like how far off the edge of the highway is the right of way, and is there usable space there? Because that's probably an easier lift than trying to route through different utility easements and whatnot, or land trust land.
Look at this last time a little bit.
now is this the GIS with the right of ways, or is it the?
You can put it on there.
So there's the three on the bottom, and that larger one there, on the bottom of these three. That one there, yeah. But that large one there wasn't marked as like owned. Yeah. It's an OS open space.
It's a no what?
I think OS is open space.
Oh, okay. But I don't know what that means.
Yeah, I guess that would be
Privately,
the
is
question
it?
to answer.
Yeah, there's no owner listed though, so I'm assuming it's.
question. It could be conservation, but open space just means typically it could be associated with development as part of the conservation land. It could be land trust. It could be town owned. Usually if there's an owner listed, so there's no.
That's what was confusing, because
I think Jay Wedgemont mentioned this property.
Yeah,
It's in an old school family.
It's an old school family and a trust that nobody wants to divide it. It's the undivided.
It's the undivided. This is the one he was talking about.
This is the undivided.
because it takes you straight from Pond Street to Spartina Cove, which would be a chunk, and that could get you a start if you wanted to go based off Pond Street as a start. Then we should fix Pond Street.
Even then, I think I'd prefer to go close to the highway. It's more direct.
Well,
Yeah, I'm
But
looking
we'd
at,
have to build up the highway.
I'm
Yeah.
looking at this, I'm saying, okay, if I got there, then where else?
then, yeah.
Where we're gonna go? Like, the destination is,
There's another open space along the highway there, is the thing. You could just get along and like merge into the one there, and you have to cross and dealt with, even if it's not ideal.
So are those lines, Luke, is that the easement for the highway? State?
Yeah,
That's
approximately.
That's pretty wide there. I mean, you could really put like a boardwalk type thing away from the, from the highway.
Yeah, in theory, I think last time I looked at it, there is grading to deal with, so that's the issue, is that, it'd probably be walls or something to deal with. But in theory, yes, yeah.
And the land next to the open space is federal, would that be an issue if you were to try to utilize that open space? The 3-1, I think that is, 6-3-3-1. The bottom one of the three there, down there, is federal, I believe. One of these was federal. Two of them were Audubon, one was federal. Audubon, I think the last one was federal.
The one up top, or?
No, the one on the bottom of these three, between the open space and the Audubon. That one, yeah, the one you're on right now, that one. The one you were just hovering over, 63.
That one showed a house on it.
Scroll down, I think that's federal. Remember I was looking at this last time.
On my mouse on me,
No, it's
37 Pond Street, no,
It's
that's
got
privately owned.
Next.
yeah, they have someone else then. There was something federal over here. But there was it's the one on the other side of the Spartina Cove.
Over here?
One of these was federal land. Yeah, that's the federal. And I heard it may have been an archaeological site of some kind, but I have no clue what it could be.
This gets into the, I talked before about property research, like you can identify open spaces. So you may not want to get hung up on ownership, you may want to chart out, okay, ideally, if you took a big fat marker and you said, I want to get from here to there, how would I go? And then you look at all the properties in between there, and then, but what's going to happen is you're going to have to move things out and say, okay, now you're going to move the line here, now you're going to move the line there.
and then that's why I automatically kind of drift to what Wesley and Charles have done. They stay with the public right away, and it's still a heavy lift for DOT, Ohio Administration, but those properties are intended for public transportation. Bicycling, pedestrian is transportation. Like this makes it, I can see this being a beautiful option, but Chris had said, like, variance is before I confirm. And, I think you can always hold out for that being the beautiful scenic option. And if you can divide the undivided and do whatever you need to do with the feds and the other costs, I think that'd be spectacular. But what's clearly worked, Charlestown Wesley is where
The only other model I can think of that works, and I just go, does any of you snowmobile at all? If you go up north,
Along the highways.
there's a lot of snowmobiling. What they do is they strike easements with people. So these clubs get all these property owners together and they say, hey, we want to create a trail network, and they sign off on these essentially easements, or it's allowance for use of property. I'm not sure what the specific agreements are. But essentially, so you would go to these property owners and say, listen, we want to do 15-foot path through here on your property that you're not using, and here are the terms. And essentially, you run it as that. Now, up north, they usually charge a permit fee, and those permit fees go to sustaining trails and everything else, but, you know, I'm just mentioning that because that is a model out there where, you know, you take, but it's laborious. Like, these things took years to pull together. You have to bring all the owners together and do it. But, so to Ken's point, like, the easier lift might be the right-of-ways. This, I'm not saying can't be done, but it would take a lot of legwork to get those people to the table and have the legal agreements to be able to say. And a lot of these actually aren't done by towns. They're done by nonprofit clubs. And they're like ski-mobile clubs that run the trails.
And those would also, the ski-mobile trails are just a trail. It's not like what we'd want for a bike path.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a tarred. Yeah, they just cut the trees down and,
Yeah, you'd be looking for more of a formal easement
yeah.
through the property, you know, that could be used for public benefit. But I know like Land Trust is very opposed to those types of things, you know, so even Audubon, I'm not sure how open they are.
Yeah. But what Charlestown has is, it's all, you know, you cross, but you're on a road. You're crossing, but, you know, these are more for experienced bikers, correct? Pedestrians in Charlestown.
Well, at a signalized intersection where people,
You know, Quaney, or, you know, East Beach, or, you know, there's any number of new signals in Charleston and in Westerly. So signalized four-way intersection, people are stopped. So it's inherently safer, 0 miles an hour versus 55 to 75 miles an hour.
But it's safer for car traffic right now. It's not designed for pedestrian or bicycle. And
But it
the
does
cyclists
have
you were talking about are
walkways.
driving on
I'm just
Walk
saying,
signs, and they have walk signs. It's safer for.
but what I'm saying is, once you get across Route 1 on one of these, like, what you're thinking, which road? You're thinking a signal where? At, like, Ministerial?
Old Post Road.
Old Post Road,
Yeah,
okay.
well, I mean, you look at Ministerial, and that's fine, but again, it's a long way before you hit a population density.
Well, I mean, you'd probably end up Tuckertown or something, right?
Curtis Warner.
But if you go in Tuckertown, like,
Yeah.
you're coming out to Bush Road, which is
Right, okay.
closer to, you know, downtown, you know,
Okay,
Main Street out
so, but what I'm asking about is, okay, you get across, but we're talking about biking on the side of a road. It's great, because now you can get across.
It's easy. Not many people
But-
live there.
okay.
Drive there if you don't live
I
there.
think that what I'm wondering about is if we are contemplating presenting the skate plan, which was the, you know, that's why we're looking at this, because Councilmember Wedgemont presented it to the town council, and they said, yes, you know, let's take a look at it. That plan is more for, my understanding is, you know, for pedestrians and bicyclists, and, you know, something that would be a little bit more in line with a path, a bike path or a path. Not necessarily just a way to get across from one road to another for experienced bikers, but for people that want to go from Wakefield to Matunic. I think that's the scope of it.
I think I'm still landing on the same conclusion, that a public right-of-way is for public travel, so it's infinitely easier to work within a public right-of-way. The lowest hanging fruit is Sharrow,
Okay.
and then to traffic calming. I mean, technically it is, but in practical terms, it's hard to convince, you know, municipalities sometimes to change. And then you're interfacing with, again, Rhode Island DOT for a traffic signal. And you can petition them to, as Lisa was saying, to have pedestrian timing, you know, so that it's not just a quick 10-second, you gotta dash across. It's
Yeah.
gotta be time for somebody who's got, you know, an impairment
Okay.
to safely cross.
Yeah,
So how you feather in that critical crossing on either side is, you know, I think that's achievable. Or if you look at it this way, you said Ministerial Road, and then there's Old Post Road. I mean, there's a handful of major north-south crossings. And I mean, you don't have to throw any of them out. You can say, here they are.
yeah,
It feels like, you know, the Old Post Road crossing, the extension of Main Street, is certainly a feeder for Wakefield.
Right, and it's identified from the state that, you know, they've already identified that they want to do that.
Oh, they-
What I'm wondering is, okay, you get across on Post Road, but then what? I mean, would we ask for that before we figured out where do you go from there?
I think, as Chris was saying, like I ride that area occasionally, and again, I wouldn't take a child out there, a toddler, you know, I'd be more careful. But I think there's an easier opportunity to do low-cost traffic calming enhancements within that town-owned or state-owned right-of-way that's low cost.
Yeah.
To slow people down. For example, why not turn you know, that crazy little South Road intersection into a stop condition? Why do people have to treat it like an extended on-ramp to Route 1? Why are they doing 40, 50 miles an hour as they leave Wakefield? You know, slow them down, stop, you know, have the neighborhood reclaim, you know, some of that space.
On that line of thinking, when we're figuring out which places are going to, where it would suggest stoplights, maybe it's not the highest traffic density, the car density. Maybe we pick a road like Pond Street because it may be right now, we wouldn't think of going on it because it's too dangerous because people are just whipping along. But when you have it clearly delineated and the education is there, this is a bike path, this is a bike right of way, people are going to avoid
There's a
it.
bike right away.
Yeah, it's
You know, like,
the-
you can't do much to a road like that, I don't think, besides paint sharrows, and I think that's, you know,
But,
almost
and the share the road, and, I mean, or bikes can take the full lane.
yeah, that sign would be nice.
Yeah.
But once you get on Pond Street, once you get down Pond Street, then what?
I think at that point we could just, what if we just put it onto Route 1 then? Because we could start, like, because Route 1 has the biggest easements, we could get a fully separated bike path from the south side of Route 1 from Pond Street all the way down to Matunic. So just have one continuous separated path on the easement for Route 1, starting at Pond Street. I think would be the both easiest and most direct, or the most direct.
I think that's a definite, yeah. I think what you're gonna do is you're gonna cross over all the, you know, Jerry Brown Farm Road and the other on and off ramps. So, but I like that idea. I think the point is that we're rounding out what the scope of professional consultant do. They look at those options and they do the pros and cons, and they probably aggregate them and say, all right, here's really like whatever, and there's a half a dozen. And here's by the way they look at it, here's the pros and cons, and here's some wild orders of magnitude cost estimates, and here's what the the hindrances are. We're doing off that route. It'd be great to go through again divided properties, but it's like that's all private negotiation. You can't. I don't think the town's gonna exercise eminent domain to try to
versus private
secure those properties.
With Town Street,
If we have a
because there's already an on-ramp there as
Site
well.
somewhere too.
So we skip the biggest, one of our big obstacles being the cost of one. If you get DOT on board, we could just take, again, like use the same lanes we already have set up, and you have a 2-lane bike path separated on Route 1.
Yeah, like on the south side.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's, DOT owns a ton of property, they bought a ton of property at one point in time to have a very wide on and off ramp system, so.
At that point, I feel like we could have those giant, like, center lanes for to our advantage if they want to shift the lanes inward a bit and make that
Access
south side
GIS.
bigger.
So
Big projects, big access.
Yeah, but it's, that's what we're trying to do.
I like that because you can see that it could potentially go in segments and then be built, and communities can see it happening. Oh, now now I can go, right,
One by one, you have more, and it's segmented, you want to do it all at once.
right,
Yeah.
yeah. I do like the flyover idea. I like the flyover idea, and then maybe if there was some way to get,
To that
to
area.
the side, just and then connect to the south side of, but Pond Street is, it's already there.
Yeah.
You know, so that's.
And the ulterior motive there wasn't so much the escape plan, although it'd be great if you can get out of that area. That one was more about, Mike Stack was looking at, and we had a discussion about connecting and the fact that there's really no public slips. We'd like to, you know, and the council's very pro getting back to the public access. So that would connect Marina Park and the water over and somehow get people to Main Street. So they could bring a boat in, they could potentially walk across, get to Main Street on a safe route, and then come back down to the water. So it was a little different take, but I think a mutual goal. The question is, if you did have a flyover into Marina Park, where do you go from there? Because it's the same challenge, right? Get across the water, because now you're on the other side of the cove.
Yeah.
So
if you're
almost
going all the way to Town Farm Park, you know, it's not that much further to Salt Pond Road. You just go under that underpass.
no.
So it's, you know, it's less of a, what am I trying to say?
I'm assuming that we can't block that walkway at all, the bridge across.
It's not navigable now.
I mean, there are, I see docks in there, but I'm assuming, like, is it all, like, does that connection between the interior waterway there and the, like, docks have to be maintained?
Yes.
That's what I assume, yeah.
Yeah, but, you know, I think what you're asking is, you could feasibly add on to the bridge.
Right.
And have another.
That's my thought, because you could have the bridge come across from the, like, this would be another way, if you want to use Pond Street, have a bridge across from, over the park is.
Farm Park.
Yeah,
Farm Park.
Town Farm Park, and then have a bridge, one like pathway can break down into Marina, and then another one can go along, again, Route 1 if you add onto the bridge.
You guys want to bike down the center island? That's where the most room is. It's funny, Route 5, DOT came to me when I was a planner in Warwick, and Route 5, where the Rhode Island Mall, I still call it the Rhode Island Mall, that was their plan. They were going to put a bike lane down the center of that thing. I'm like,
I mean, you're talking.
catch me dead on that
you're
thing.
talking
But
the median?
Yeah.
Oh,
With proper safety, it could work, but you have to have every single exit with a new bike, like.
It's not the worst idea, because there's nothing along the edge of Route 1.
Yeah,
But
it would be better just to push the lanes inward.
Not to mention, you like bike right in the center of the highway? I mean,
I'm just saying
no,
it's
it
been
is a bad
done.
idea, just turn around.
yeah,
I was kind of joking about it.
Yeah,
Though. Don't
there's a
take that
really
to
nice
heart.
bike trail down in DC, right along going from DCA, right along Crystal City. Beautiful bike path. And you're right along the highway.
I don't know. I think there's some, you know, obviously the stormwater stuff that they're doing now with a lot of the medians. I don't know. I don't recall what they have in the center there. But
Oh, in this section, I don't know that they have anything out here.
they've done some stuff on the sides recently, but I don't think they've
Oh, yeah, and near the.
over near Salt Pond.
Yeah, but yeah, even just this turnaround here, that provides a complication.
Yeah.
It's not,
Yeah.
you know,
No,
like
it's
you can't
not.
figure it out, but
I think having a 2-lane on the south side of Route 1 is probably the most feasible, though. At least from looking on it from.
when you're
that's
saying, you know, that you'd have both bikers and walkers, like a bike
like
path.
our usual bike path in
Yes.
town, the 2-lane.
Yeah.
That's what I meant by 2-lane, yeah.
I think you could do that
Yeah,
on
you
the
need
south
that.
side. I think there's enough room.
And yeah, and then like looking at that map off the Access GIS, like it looks like they have plenty of space on both sides. The only issue would be cars coming on and off, obviously.
Yeah.
You'd have that issue no matter where you're doing this.
I think, yeah, the study would need to be what's the terrain and grading, and that's gonna be the challenge.
and where there isn't, like, you just came from an area where there's guardrails, so we'd want to have guardrail there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen them where they do concrete all the way down. Like they
Yeah.
just do
'Cause, like,
better Jersey barriers, but
So that's nice. Yeah, and I would still like to see the cost and see a consultant get creative and figure out how to do a traffic signal. But again, that gets you so far, and then you're down Campbell Road or in that stretch, and then you have another gap before you get to Jerry Brown Farm, where you could.
So it sounds like there's 3 potential, like, crossings well, two. There's the potential for this flyover maybe, and to get across.
That only
And-
needs to be parked, yeah.
And then that, but then everything would be on the south side of Route 1. But then there's a stoplight potential at Main Street, at Post Road. And that, you know, what's nice about that is that you get across, and then you could be working pathways both ways. You know, you could be building them both ways and connecting them. Right? I mean, you if you started here, you've got the whole length to go down. Whereas if you started where you have a signal, at least you get, well, you'd get across to Post Road, but then where? I mean, that you still have to get the, you know, the state involved.
It's Route 1, the state has to be involved.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's, you know, that's another, hey, you're doing a great job here, Luke. I'm really enjoying.
Usually, it's tough for me to like make the spins.
Yeah, I'd like to see like ROM costs for the different crossing options. Don't forget tunnel. I think that tunnel is like the best, but also probably more expensive than a bridge.
It'd be the safest option, I think.
Could you like where, now Spartina Cove, you could probably do something where you don't, there's not that much traffic coming in and out, but Jerry Brown and, I can't think of the name of the other one. Succotash, yeah, you'd have to do something there. People are gonna come off and go on, you'd have to do,
Right, I think
you'd have to go
you
under.
You like follow the on-ramp, you go back a little bit,
Okay.
and you just put in a crosswalk.
Yeah, you can cross or even just another shop sign or one of the Falcon lines. You could reuse the Falcon signs from,
But from coming off of the highway, I mean, I think that would be, I mean, I don't want to get into the weeds on this. I'm just saying, those are big considerations.
I'm not wishing this on South Kingstown, but if you look at how Wesley has developed over time on Route 1, they keep on installing traffic signals.
So-
People to stop, and it becomes the norm, right?
So like,
So after the Havisham, you know, as you're heading into Wesley, there's a Robbins Hollow.
Yeah.
It's just a random neighborhood. They don't signal there.
okay,
Right?
so you're saying
Then
like
you've got-
Jerry
there's
Brown,
the other
you could potentially,
The signals from like 20 years ago. Between that Charleston and Westford, there's at least 3 or 4 new
Yeah,
ones.
The town decided when I was a public works director there that they wanted to build a new middle school right off Route 1. I'm like, that's the craziest thing. I'm like, you got to put a new signal there, and they had a very influential center. You got to signal to it. So, but it changes the characteristic of that roadway, and you feel like you're in an urban area. It's not like, you know, in South Kingstown. Charlestown's a little bit of a weird anomaly. It's a little more rural, but that is a bona fide way that the state and the federal government have already said, nope, it's important for people to cross here.
Pedestrians, bicyclists, cars, stop on Route
Be much cheaper than bridge.
1.
It is, so I like your idea about running parallel to Route 1. That feels like it'd be a nice, pleasant ride. I think you should push for that.
Yeah.
I think that's what's probably, you know, reasonably within our grasp is looking at traffic signals. And I'd even dare say that Succotash Road should be a signal. That crazy, every time I go
Oh,
up to
that's-
Tennis Bar, I'm looking over my shoulder in my truck, you know, trying to dodge, you know, traffic going in and out of there. I mean, it's tough, but it's,
Losing the greenery would suck, but like, okay, those signals are necessary to keep keep it moving. Cause like, how much is that greenery worth? How many crashes that? How much issues are there?
yeah, so I think you'd have a consultant look at that and
Yeah.
come up with examples of, you know, what's in North Kingstown, what's in Charleston, what's in Westerly, what makes sense to get the rough order of magnitude costs, and that provides better context.
Ken, on this Succotash, you would just put stop light on the south side. The south, you wouldn't have it all the way across, because there's nothing on the other side. Do you know what I'm saying? You would just have a stop there at that little triangle on the south side of Route 1. It wouldn't go.
I honestly, I get rid of the stupid jug handles. They're horrible.
Okay, okay.
That's 1950s.
Okay, okay, I see
You know
what you're
what I mean?
saying. All right,
And, yeah,
okay,
I mean, people drive way too fast.
that makes sense. Okay, I like that. I just didn't,
Yeah.
I wasn't visual. Now I see what you're talking
Especially in the summer, though, the tourists from Connecticut, they're all driving 65.
about.
Yep. And people just figuring, somebody will move over, somebody will emerge as they're coming out of.
Nick, I bike that. Like you have to cross that on my bike and want to come back from it. It's just the worst intersection you have to cross because no one's looking at you.
No.
No one's looking at anything. They just go, and if you're in the way, then you're not biking anymore.
That,
You can't, you're driving, it's like you're looking over your shoulder. Like
you're
you
looking
said.
this way, you're not,
And you
yeah.
got a gun as soon as you think there's an opening, especially in the summer when the traffic's bad.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, it sounds like we have a bit of a plan. I think I can make a draft of what was said and run it by everybody, and you guys put your input. And then we'll run it. Should I have people individually provide input to me? We're not gonna we can't work as a group.
No,
Oh.
but you can be a collaborator, so I'd send it out and ask for individual comments to come back, then you can modify your document, and then I would bring it back to maybe the next meeting and
Okay.
all review it together and make sure you're all on the same page.
Okay, okay. Alrighty. And then, I like that seems doable. If only for money. Okay, and then, one of the things, so let's say, if we have a July meeting, and Ken, I think, I don't know if Ken brought it up, or somebody brought up that, in the past, maybe we've taken a break in the summer. We can, I don't know what everybody's schedule is like. I'd like, to kind of keep moving. I think you said that the town council is off.
Second meeting of August is typically canceled.
Okay,
So I think
Okay.
that's what the plan is this year,
okay,
unless something comes up.
okay. So how would we write this up, let's say, a July meeting? By July, we'd have it all squared away. And then how would we request? Would we request a workshop? Would we request, just to make a presentation at one of their meetings?
So let me get back to you. I mean, one way to do it is just request a workshop
Okay.
to the council, and then I can bring it to the manager and see if we can get it on. We've been lucky, we haven't had a ton of workshops lately.
Okay. And this would be like town council meeting? This would be like from 7 to 7:30?
Correct.
Okay,
If you wanted a workshop. The other is the correspondence. You could ask them to put it on so you can speak to it, but as you know, that's at the end of the meeting. Not super fun. So, if they'll accommodate a work session, if that's something a member who's really involved in BPAC and they want to ask to be put on a work session, then the town manager will put it on. So.
okay, but as a
Because we
group?
get requests from a lot of people. right?
Okay.
So not everyone gets to go just on a work session because they request it. It has to
Okay.
be, typically it's something that either the manager will say, yes, this is a priority because it's, let's say, I'll give an example. Veolia is doing a water rate increase and it's something a priority for the town.
Right.
So I want to put a work session, town manager says I want to put it on. Or the town council, a member can say, hey, I'd like to docket this to put it on for a work session. So typically that's how it goes, so that not everyone, because there's just not enough time to put everyone on a work session.
But we're really important.
As everyone feels they are, and I agree.
Listen, the escape plan during this work session, we have this Board of Ed on. at least to push it.
Well,
Right, so,
we are-
read between the lines, if you have a council member who's, with your group, I would suggest I would put it to the entire council, but that council member, if you have an advocate, this is like the legislature, it's no different, right? If you want a bill passed, you gotta find an advocate, because the legislature has too many bills to consider, so if you want something done, you have to find the champion.
Yep.
So I would suggest it's the same way, hopefully they'll accommodate the request for a workshop. Your backstop on that is obviously you can always correspond with the council, but you could be put on as a correspondent. All that's required for that is you correspond with the council and you request some sort of action. And that will be put on a correspondence at the end of the meeting and you can speak to it individually.
I'd rather not.
Preferred
I've
method,
done
but-
that several times.
Yeah, that's the backstop method.
We would have an opportunity to have slides and do something like
In
this.
a workshop, yes.
Okay.
You have to keep it to the half hour, but
Okay.
you could certainly go through. Let me just speak plainly. I'm sure Councilman Wedgemont, being his escape initiative, would
Right.
push to put it on a workshop.
Well, and I believe that there was a motion to look into this, and now we were tasked with it, so we need to present that, okay?
I'm just saying, that's not my call to put it on the work session. That's something somebody from the council has to say, yes, put them on a work session.
Okay, okay. And then as far as applications for new members, be nice to have those on board before we have the work session. When do you think it would be? August?
I don't know, are you aware of any new applications, or? Because I don't have any knowledge of
Okay.
applications in the queue.
Okay, all
I'm
right.
Mind
not
joining.
calling anybody out, but if anybody here wants to put an application.
Okay.
Please do, please,
Please do.
please, please.
We are moving.
Don't look down. Just don't look down.
We are moving quicker on getting appointments done.
I saw that,
You
yeah.
know, Emily's been putting on 5 or 6 per meeting now, and it seems to be moving a little bit quicker, so we're almost caught up.
Yeah. So and I don't know, you probably have to go. Do you have to go?
Not really.
Oh, okay, okay. But, we move past this in a workshop, and then we're gonna be in CIP season. And then, at least Beth and I are gonna work on the bike path crossings, that's the next item on the agenda. But then there are a lot of other things that we can do as a group, and then subcommittee-wise, if we have more members, so, and if you have.
Sorry, CIP?
CIP is the capital improvement plan, and so we take a look at that and see, for the different road projects, what we can suggest, what recommendations we can make. So, alrighty, so I think we are done with escape, and we only have really a few minutes, because it's coming up on 8 o'clock, so we have about 15 minutes or so. Luke, do you have any kind of matrix for us as we're working on the bike path crossings?
No.
Okay,
I'm going to be honest, no. And I do owe it to you. I promised it. As I said, don't make the great the enemy of the good. You guys have already gone out. You gave me information. If you find a format that works for you and you have time to go out, go out. I don't want to hold you up.
I thought I thought we were waiting, okay,
If you have time, go do it.
Okay.
It's fine. I'll figure it out after the fact. If I have time in the next week or so, I'm trying to button up a lot of loose ends, but if I can get to it, it shouldn't take me that long. It's a matter of actually sitting down for an hour without phone calls.
Okay.
But, no.
Uninterrupted time.
Huh?
That uninterrupted.
Yeah, really, I know, right? But, that's not an excuse. To be honest, in the priorities of things, it just has
fine.
fallen off.
That's fine.
So, we'll see if I can get to it, but if you have time, you're the volunteers, right? You're volunteering your time, so I don't care if it's handwritten notes or whatever, as long as it's clear enough and you have the plans, mark it up. The big thing is what's been done that DOT has done and what haven't they done? Because I have talked to Steve Pristawa and said, hey, I have BPAC working on kind of an inventory. He's more than glad to revisit and say, what hasn't been done. The other thing to note is, because this was after our 138 meeting, I talked to Steve about lights, because that's another thing that had come up, like using the bike path at night, and that's another thing that's at some point is going to get revisited. But the priority was to see what DOT could do at the intersections to light it up better. So he's aware of it, and DOT is working on that. I'll have to check and see where that is. So maybe at the same time they're doing the lights, we can finish up the loose ends on the intersections.
Well, okay, so Lisbeth and I took, and if you can unshare so I can share, two things, and I think we can move through them kind of quickly, but, okay, is it gonna give me a? So we looked very closely at 108 and Railroad Street.
Just click on the screen you want to show you.
I do. It's very exciting.
There you
All right, let me just do, where did I have? This is the second part of it, but the first part, we did Railroad Street.
That's right.
And what we found, that's a very convoluted area there, right? Whalers, we've got J Bun, Mythic, the bike path crosses there.
And the Rotary and
Yeah, and it's just, but the main issue, and I go there every day, and the main issue is that the buttons for this and the stop sign are on the wrong side of the road.
Terrible design.
They're on the wrong
Jane
side.
Bun, right?
yeah.
It's a by Jane Bun. You
Yeah.
can't, people,
I don't know why they
sidewalks
put it
on
the
the
wrong-
other side. And the other thing is that people driving, coming from east to west, they can't see the sign that alerts them that there's a bike going across until they come around the corner. So the button to cross needs to be separate from the actual light.
So, like I said,
We're gonna write it up.
yeah, what's been done, what has been done, those comments, put to this, don't definitely log those.
Okay,
And then what we'll do is, when you're done, I'll sit down with you on a work session with the two of you, and we'll go through each one. And I'll make sure I understand all of the concerns, I'll package it up, and then I'll go to DOT and say, all right, here's the stuff you promised us that didn't do. And by the way, I worked with the BPAC, and here's things that we think need to be done, because I 100% agree with you, that, I walk there a lot, and it's the most ridiculous
they
thing.
did it, they just did it wrong.
Yeah, they just did it wrong, and not surprising. So, I think that's something that we need to communicate with them, is that, thanks for the effort, but, you're almost there.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, 100%, I'm with you. If you have that, I know that Councilman Wedgemont has already asked for the potential of a stop sign at the town road coming through. So for Church, is it Church?
Church.
Yeah, Church. And so we're looking into that, whether that's appropriate or not, or an RFB or something else, so.
As a person who drives there, I think an RFB would be,
Yeah,
that would be
something
easier.
but also,
And maybe a stop sign at the top of the hill or something, but not so close, because they come down that hill and can't stop at times.
Yeah, that's the concern I brought up, is that I'm not sure if Kersey Road didn't meet the warrant, I don't know how that would meet the warrant, because you come over that hill coming down, and it's right on top of you, you're on top of the bike path.
yeah,
So, but that's an engineering question, I don't.
yeah, some rumble strips or something, just to let you know you're coming up to something.
Yeah,
That's
I
easy
don't
enough.
love stop signs. I feel like they're overused as a Band-Aid to problems like that. But
Yeah, but just,
Law enforcement's kind of take on it as well, and many engineers take on it as well. They're not supposed to be used as a traffic and like a speed control device.
yeah, yeah. So, but for this, Lisbeth and I said, well, we're gonna start, even though that wasn't really part of the bike path inventory. How do people start and get to the bike path? And so we went from the very beginning, and there's some major issues all through that, because now let's see if can I press, okay. So this is, you're heading west, and there's signage here for bike path and Amtrak. And so then you're coming around the corner. Whoops, see, no, that's not working right. All right, I'm looking up. All right, okay. Coming around the corner here. Okay. You come around the. Wait a minute, I'm on the wrong side here. Let's see.
Go to the one with the reddish tree. That's the
Okay.
one that's around the corner.
So you come around the corner from there, and the sidewalk ends. And there's no way you'd want to put a crosswalk there because people are just coming around that corner. So that's one issue. So either don't have the sidewalk go around, have the sidewalk, cross the street, just here. Not have the sidewalk go around the corner, just cross, and then you're on the other side. Okay. Because that's dangerous right there. But then over here to the left where that black car is, that's where the parking is for the bike path.
Question, I'm interested, if you go back to so I see a curb cut there.
Yep.
Is that a residential drive?
Yes,
So when you're taking this picture, you're at the corner?
yes.
So the only thing I would say is, although it reads as a sidewalk, it's not really a sidewalk, right? It's an apron. So it effectively does end.
No,
I
it
think
is-
The reason they did it is because you have to have an apron for the driveway. Like if I go to DOT and I say, hey, we want to cut that off, you're still, like they may have a small spot with no walkway, but then it's going to have the curb cut. So I'm just bringing that up.
Okay.
That's probably what they may say, is that.
Or keep the sidewalk going around and then make a crossing where it's safe. I don't know.
I mean, it certainly would delineate if you had a piece of open space between the two, like if you took out a couple panels and it reads as like it ends, it certainly. But
Yeah.
that's something that if you write up separately, because we are at, ideally, early design, I can bring the DOT on a separate issue as part of the roadway project.
Yeah,
Because they are planning on repaving that side.
yeah. And I know that this is going to all be, we know that.
Yeah.
But we said there should be some basic signage or something, because while we were there, after you left, and I was standing there in the parking lot, there was a woman that got out with her kid that had a bike, and for her to get from the parking lot here, this is the parking, okay? Parking for bike path. There's three, for her to get her kid across and then down and then to, the bike path starts all the way on the other side of the Amtrak station. That kid was exhausted. They came back.
She didn't make it.
She didn't make it.
She didn't make it to
She
the
didn't
bike
make it.
path.
But
It was just too difficult.
So
Yeah.
there was the sweet Rose, who was the traffic person that was the security person for Amtrak. And she said, well, just tell the moms just to let me know they want to park for the bike path for their kids, and I'll let them through. And it's like,
Yeah.
do you know what I'm
How
saying?
does it work in that parking lot? I don't use the train, so when you come into the other side, is there no parking for the bike path?
There's no parking, no, no.
Not during the construction process.
Not right now.
Well, I'm saying in general, like eventually.
Eventually, we hope, yeah,
We hope.
but right now,
Because the expansion goes further into the bike
it's
path.
like, it's silly that
You're
the
talking
the bike path parking should have been part of, close to the bike path. But I guess there was no way to monitor that.
If they made a distinct section for the bike path parking at the far end of the lot, and they've paved there now.
Oh, it's paved now?
It's paved now, they still have a few spots, but it was recently paved. And it was delineated, bike path parking only, towing after dusk. But now you're talking about nighttime riding on the bike path. But if we were set a time limit, but
No overnight parking.
overnight parking and in that, then you stand a chance. But
That's a good idea.
Yeah. And how many spaces was that? Did you notice?
What, with the addition? It almost doubles the lot.
I mean, for bike path.
There's nothing delineated yet. I haven't heard of what the plan is for bike parking down there, but I'm just saying what would be functional is to have it
Yeah.
near the bike path.
Right.
But, so, just continuing on, 'cause so here's where you can cross, and get over, and then, oh, for goodness sakes, okay. All right, so you're coming along there, and then you go underneath,
Over the pigeon droppings.
oh,
Yeah, with the pigeon
and
droppings,
listen,
right.
don't
Yeah.
think that for a minute that I did not record the pigeon dropping. Right? I'm a journalist here, you know, you gotta have it. So, you know, and there was some crumbling above, but we know that that's all being addressed. You know, there was somebody that, okay, I'm looking the wrong way here. Okay, we did go above and look at the steps that go down, to the bike, to, you know, then to join in, that's, you know, that's kind of a mess. That is something that probably is gonna need to be addressed in the future. Sorry if I'm making you dizzy. I'm just gonna try to, okay, so here we're back. You've come underneath the roadway. Okay, and normally you'd say, oh, that's the way to go. But then you see this sign that says, no biking zone. So you're thinking, oh, I'm not supposed to bike through there.
Yeah, it's pretty silly.
You're supposed to go all the way around into the road again in the backyard, right?
But if you've parked and you're coming on the bike path,
No, biking zone too. Yeah.
so it should just say, walk your bike.
Yes.
That's all it should say.
Yeah.
So how do we get that changed? I don't, you know, I'm not sure.
It's DOT.
DOT? Okay.
Write it up.
Write it up. I'm gonna write it up, and we're almost running out of time.
Like, just say like slow.
And the
yield
reason
to
I say that is
pedestrians.
because, you know, these are a lot of little things.
Yeah.
It's much easier to communicate with DOT and say, here's all the stuff.
Yeah, for this particular, yeah.
As an
Yeah, here's
aggregate.
the bike,
Right next to the bike.
yeah.
Yeah, that sign just seems like unnecessarily.
It was very hostile. But, you know, then there's, and I kind of went crazy with the pictures here, but there's a lot of signs, you know, bus only, you know, it's, you're trying to figure out, wait a minute, how do we turn in, where do we turn in for the bike path? Because it's really confusing if you haven't experienced it before. Like, and we want to welcome people to come, and, I mean, that should be something that economic development would be interested in too, that people would come and then bike into Wakefield.
Simple cure to that would be a spray painting bikes path on the road.
Well, this is a series where it's considered a new bus stop.
The hub.
The hub, yeah, yeah. Yep. So, I just wanted to see if, I'm really sorry again, but it's coming up on 8 and I just want to get through. There's one sign that had, that we thought was good, and it was just a detour. Let's see if I can come up to it. Yeah, we hit it from every angle, let me tell you.
It's further.
But you can see,
I think
yeah,
it's a
this
little
is
bit-
just one.
Yeah, and I think it's a little bit further down. 'cause
There's
this is-
another with another coming from the other direction, no bike zone. So, yeah, but so entrance to shared use path and then detour. These are way past where the bike path, where the parking for the bike path is. So that's, you know, that's something that we should have more detour. As all of this construction is going on in the next several years for 138, I think we need to have DOT step it up and provide a little bit more signage so that people can find their way to the bike path, because it's,
Okay.
or parking.
Versus confusing signage.
Yep, okay, we're at 8 o'clock, but I did want to ask if anybody had an opportunity to take a look at the AARP at the, this walkability
I leave
study.
it as a guidance on how to do an assessment
Okay.
of walkability. So I'll look at it in greater detail and get back on some
Okay.
recommendations.
This is something that Economic Development asked if we wanted to participate in doing this walk audit for, and I don't know if it's the whole town, if it's just Wakefield. I know that these things have been done before. I think the Healthy by Design used some walkability.
Which economic development, the town?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So I think if we could just take a vote of, is this something that we want to participate in? Is there anybody in particular that's interested? We don't have to decide now, but how do we feel? Is this something we want to take on in the future?
I agree doing it piecemeal on sections, because I was going to ask it put on the next agenda. I had a prior takeaway that I was supposed to come back with
Okay.
recommendations for High Street for a crosswalk.
Right.
And I've already done the drive and kind of viewed it. I didn't have a distribution, so it wouldn't be appropriate to present it tonight. But I can look into this and get back to you in regards to piecemeal.
Okay. How about if, once we get through with the escape, we take a look at it again? I don't know how quickly they want to move on it, but I think once we get through the escape plan and then, some of the path things, we can decide, or do we want to do it? What is your feeling? Because I just want to say, we've done a lot of studies, and it's just another study or another thing, and if there's no, now maybe there's money with AARP that's going to help fund walkability issues. What do you feel, Ken? You're experienced in this.
Sure. It's something to do, but I agree with the point. You do an audit, and where's it going to go? So.
You could reach out to the chair and maybe attend one of their meetings to discuss it. And
they kind of asked me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you advise them
That I was going to bring it back to the group to discuss.
but that you've advised them that there's already been a lot of these?
I've sent them copies of the village, some of the studies. So. All righty.
So maybe we should table it for next month, because I didn't read through it at all.
Okay.
And I don't know if anyone else read through it, but if there's money involved with it.
Yeah? Okay.
Is there money?
Let me,
AARP gives the recommendations, it looks like, on how to conduct it. But I know they have their own fundraising requests too, so as an organization, I don't know that they're funding things. But as I read through it, I'll see what they propose.
as I'll reach out and just see what is their plan for how quickly they want to start on it.
Next meeting date?
Is July let's see. Wait a minute. July the 9th.
Okay.
Is that a problem for anybody, or? Okay. All righty. Okay, I think that we have, I'm not even going to go to new business B, discussion regarding establishment of subcommittees, because we're not there yet. But I think once we have some, more members, I think we can talk about, breaking up the work a little bit. All righty.
So I'll get some pictures for the grades for we can.
Oh, perfect, yep.
So movement to adjourn?
Oh, yes. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, and meeting is ending at 8:04.